Okay, it is Sunday afternoon, 30th of August, second to the last day of August, and my apologies for all of my loyal viewers that I have not yet contributed to Granny Lartham's Corner Grandpa Larson style over the last couple of weeks. It's been busy 2 or 3 weeks here. Lots and lots of driving, trying to catch up with the backlog of drivers that have been built up over this COVID situation. We've been able to teach the class, but have not been able to drive. And so we've had a big backlog of drivers to catch up with. So lots and lots of hours driving over the last several weeks. And one other little activity. There we go. Maybe we had a sibling reunion over in Bear Lake. All of my siblings and their spouses came. Had a great 4 days at Bear Lake. Enjoyed it very much. Went out on the lake on a boat and had good food and good treats and good conversation. And we even went over and visited my mom over in her facility there in Soda Springs. Unbeknownst to her, we all got permission to go in all together, all 8 of us, and took a picture with mom. And I think you've probably seen those pictures posted on I think mom has posted some of those pictures on the internet there. So we had a great time and enjoyed it very much, and look forward to the next one. And then added to that fact, Brittany and Garth have decided to move to Twin Falls, and you're all familiar with that. And so they're now bunking in with us for the next 5 or 6 weeks, whatever it will be. I think they have sold their home and bought another one, and I think the closing date, if my memory is serving me correctly, is the 25th of September. So we have Brittany and Garth and their children in our home. We're grateful that we're able to help them wherever we can, and it's lots of activities going on that aren't normal around here, but it's always good. So anyway, those are some inept reasons as to why I haven't contributed to Granny Lartham's Corner here, but I wanted to do it today here. We just finished sacrament meeting, had a great sacrament meeting, enjoyed it very much, had the kids there, and all participated, and we enjoyed it. But now we have a little time in the afternoon to do some of these other things, and I thought I ought to take advantage of the time to contribute to Granny Lartham's Corner, Grandpa Larson style. The last time I did this, I think I talked about my grandpa Larson and what a great man he was and is, and his influence on me and the great association we have. Well, I can't let things go by without at least mentioning my grandma Larson, the late Broomhead Larson. She is the oldest child in her family, and I didn't get to know her family near as well as I did my grandpa's brothers and sisters, but they did come periodically and got to know them, and good people. We enjoyed having them, enjoyed them coming, and we went to visit them on occasion, but nowhere near as often as we did with my Grandpa Larson's family. So I'm not quite as familiar with her family as I am my grandpa's, but nonetheless, my grandma Larson. I can start where I first remember her, but I need to start back a little further than that. She recounted to me, and my dad has recounted to me, that she was so active and so involved in her kids' activities that my dad played football, and she would go to all the football games and basketball games that he participated in. But he remembers her running up and down the sidelines as the ball would move along in the field, that she would run up and down the sidelines to follow the ball, as fans were oftentimes known to do at that time. And she was able to do that. She was agile and quick and so forth. But shortly thereafter, she was struck down with rheumatoid arthritis, which is a debilitating disease. It is still with us today in certain features, but they've been able to deal with it much better today than they did back then. My Grandma Larson, when I first remember her, she was crippled severely with this rheumatoid arthritis. The fingers on both of her hands were at almost right angles, 90-degree angles, turning. They were very, very painful, those joints and those knuckles and those fingers and wrists, and of course her feet were also misshapen. Her toes were almost at a 90-degree angle again, just like her fingers, and she had difficulty walking and of course walking period. But of course, whenever she did walk, she was in great pain. So the pictures of my Grandma Larson when I was growing up, there's not a lot of them where she was smiling, but that's the reason. She was in great pain most of her life because of that rheumatoid arthritis. She, however, the things I remember about my Grandma Larson is I've told you about, going to baseball practice in the summer with my grandpa, but then we'd come home and she would have ready French fries virtually every day. She would cut them by hand using a paring knife that I wish I had in my possession. I'll never forget this. It had a black handle. It was very thin. It was pitted. It was old. It was just gnarly looking, but she used it for everything. That black paring knife. I don't remember any other utensils that she used, but that black paring knife she used to cut French fries and everything else with, chicken bones and everything else. But when she was fixing food, she would invariably use that paring knife. I wish I had that in my possession today, because that is something that I remember specifically about my Grandma Larson. Those French fries she cooked in oil, and they were the greasiest French fries ever, but boy, they were tasty. She liked that grease, and so did my grandpa. I never did like eggs. My grandpa loved fried eggs, so my grandma would cook those eggs, but she would use grease in the pan, and that hot grease, she would get a spoon or something and splash it up on the yolk of the egg rather than flipping it over. She would splash it up on that yolk of the egg to cook the egg that way with that grease. And so every morning my grandpa had 2 or 3 fried eggs cooked that way. And I never did acquire a taste for fried eggs, and that's probably the reason. They were a little too greasy. But I mentioned we went hunting a lot in the fall, and I'd sleep over at Grandma and Grandpa Larson's on the morning of the hunt, the Friday evening. We'd watch the wrestles. We called them the wrestles. Tom Bradshaw was the commentator, and some of the wrestling wrestlers in there. I remember Chief Kit Fox and Gorgeous George, and there were several that it was fake all the way around, but we kind of liked watching it. I don't know why, but I'm not a big fan today, but we sure were back then. At any rate, and then Saturday morning, invariably, I wouldn't get much sleep when we were going hunting, but I'd doze off. But when we woke up, Grandma was always out there cooking breakfast for us before we go hunting. Again, with the fried eggs and the bacon and the toast and French toast. She cooked French toast a lot. And she'd put cinnamon and sugar on those squares of French toast. She'd cut the toast in fourths, and then we'd eat those fourths. But she'd put cinnamon and sugar on them, and that was pretty tasty. So she was always fixing meals, before we went hunting. And at great pain to her, she would get up early and start that. She couldn't walk quickly at all, and with great sacrifice on her part to make sure we were fed before we went hunting on the Saturday of each Saturday of the hunting season. She loved to play games with her grandchildren, including me. One of her favorite was, I don't know why, but was Old Maid. The only thing I remember about Old Maid is if you ended up with the Old Maid, you lost. Well, invariably, Grandma would end up with the Old Maid, and come to find out, she was cheating to lose. She didn't want her grandchildren to lose. And so she's the only woman or the only person I ever knew who would cheat to lose an old maid, for Pete's sake. Unbelievable. She had a knee operation. I remember she telling me about her knee was drained and had a knee operation. And the fluids that were drained out of her knee for, on at least one or two occasions during her lifetime. She mentioned over and over again as her life went on and on and on that she needed to stay walking, because she knew, she told me several times, if I ever sit down in that wheelchair, I'll never get up again. And of course the time came when she just simply couldn't do it again. Rheumatoid arthritis got so bad that she had to have an operation and amputated at least a third of her foot, all of her toes, and about a third back to the instep, almost to the instep, and she had to have special shoes that would still allow her to move or walk for a little bit. But eventually she did get in the wheelchair. The one poignant scene that I remember after that is I went on a mission for the church, of course, in 1969 through 71. And when I came home, we went directly to 604 Grant Street to my grandparents' house. And as we walked in, I remember the expressions on my grandpa's face, and especially my grandma. She was in a wheelchair, and she told me over and over again that she felt safe in my arms when I would lift her up and move her out of the wheelchair into the chair, that she felt safe. And she only felt safe in my arms. And I remember that, and it was a tender point for me that I don't know why she would say that, because there were others who were as strong or maybe not as big, but she felt safe in my arms, and I remember that forever. What a great blessing that was. She never missed an event where I was involved, and other of my siblings, if we were singing or playing in a game. She never missed a little league game or a basketball game or things that I was involved in. She always came and was so supportive and of me and all of my siblings as we went through and grew up in Montpelier and so forth. She was eventually, my grandpa lost his leg and so forth. Anyway, she eventually was not committed, but went to a rest home down in Utah. And I knew that would not be a good thing for her, but my grandpa simply could not care for her any longer. And so she went, and within, it was very few weeks, she passed away. And she passed away on my birthday, January the 12th. I remember that vividly. That she passed away on my birthday, and that was not a fun birthday for me because I missed my grandma. Great, great lady, wanted to do for others more so than herself her whole life. If I were to sum her life up into one thing, she wanted the best for her children and would sacrifice anything for her children to be better and have the advantages that maybe she did not have. So I loved my grandma Larson, and great, great lady. Look forward to a reunion with her as well in the future. Just wanted you to get to know my grandma Larson in this regard. Thanks very much. We'll do it again soon. Thanks.